This is Dr. Yemi Famuyiwa, your host of Fertile Talks, and I am happy to invite everyone to Fertile Walk 2025. This is going to take place Saturday, October 18th at 9 a.m. in Rockville, starting from 3202 Tower Oaks Boulevard. So this is more than just a walk. It's a fun, family-friendly day packed with health and fitness coaches, a live fertility and wellness talk, local businesses with interactive booths, and plenty of giveaways and surprises. And as an added bonus, the first 10 people to RSVP will be getting a signed copy of my new book that's coming out in March 2026. It's called The Quest for Fertility. Everyone who registers by March 2026 will also be invited to join our exclusive VIP book club with early book excerpts, bonus fertility tips, and special PDF resources. So, spots are limited. Please RSVP. Go to the link in the show notes and RSVP to save your spot. Can't wait to see you there. This episode of Fertile Talks is sponsored by ILMeds.co, an international mail-order pharmacy specializing in fertility medications. If you're looking to save significantly on your fertility treatments without compromising on quality, ILMeds.co is an excellent choice, offering up to 80% of retail prices. And as a special offer to our listeners, use the code FT24 at checkout to receive a $50 discount on your order. For your convenience, you can find a link to their website in the episode show notes. Thank you, and let's get started. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Famuyiwa with another episode of Fertile Talks with Dr. Famuyiwa. And today we have an exciting guest. We're going to be talking to Angelo Allard. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Angelo Allard.
Okay, from Seattle Sperm Bank. And this is really a current topic. I want to talk about what a sperm bank does. And I'm not just talking about sperm donation. Most people think a sperm bank is all about sperm donation. But we're going to be talking today about some exciting data about what's going on with male fertility as well. Unless you've been living under a rock or you're shipped out to Mars, you should have known that today's men are not nearly as fertile as their grandpas, right? So what is going on? So, Angelo, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit and give us a background about you.
Yeah, well, again, my name is Angelo Allard. I'm the general manager for Seattle Sperm Bank. I've been here for 15 years as of May of this year. And, I've been with the company from the time that we were just a company of 3 people until now, the time that we've grown into 6 locations in the United States and 2 internationally. And I've gotten to be a part of the, fertility industry at large to see all these changes, including what you just mentioned about the decline in male fertility health.
Yes. It's so exciting to have you and nice to know you guys. Sounds like you bootstrapped up Seattle Sperm Bank from scratch, similar to what I did with Montgomery Fertility. Totally a labor of love, totally bootstrapped. So I understand.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Angelo, for those who may not know, can you clarify for us what is a sperm bank?
Yeah, in a semi-unserious way of talking about it, a sperm bank, if you boil it down to its most simple definition, is a biological e-commerce company. But we're not Amazon. We're not selling shoes. We're helping people make decisions, big decisions about future family planning and what they want to do with their gametes, both from the side of anonymous routine donors, but also client depositors, sexually intimate partners, directed donors. And to that end, you can kind of break our company into or compartmentalize our company into several different departments, starting first with compliance, right? We're governed by the FDA here in the United States. If we're in compliance, then we're in business. Then we get into donor recruitment. We can't have a company if we don't have donors. Yes. So we have to be able to come up with successful ways to recruit donors. Then there's the lab team. Pretty self-explanatory. That's where the product is made. Right. But it's very different than what you would think than other scientific companies or research organizations. Right. Where what we do isn't necessarily highly complex, but there's absolutely zero room for error.
Exactly, because you're dealing with life. You're dealing with life, right?
Exactly.
And that's the way I feel about whenever I talk about third party reproduction. When I talk to my staff, my medical assistants, my nurses, we're dealing with life as far as I'm concerned. So I take it extremely seriously. And, to
Absolutely.
that fact, one of the things, and I really want to get to some other topics, but just a little segue, you talked about compliance, and people
Yes.
don't know this. And I tell them, look, this is not, we're not buying off a street market in, Asia or Africa. There are rules and regulations in America. When you're
Yeah.
talking about getting sperm ready that could be used in someone else, even in a surrogate for the same patient, there are rules in the US of A.
Yes.
There are rules. You can't just pluck someone off the street, donate sperm, and ready to use it tomorrow. I know some people are going on the black market. I've seen some Facebook groups. It is totally scary, mind
Very.
boggling what people are doing, but there are rules. Can you explain to some of our listening audience the rules in the US of A and why you cannot go from, yeah, I just found this guy off the street corner and I asked him to donate sperm, and here it is. Can we get some sperm and use it?
Sure. So there's the federal legislation is the FDA legislation, and that goes over what it requires for a donor to be considered eligible for use in reproductive treatments. Then another federal legislation is the CLIA, so Clinical Laboratory Improvement Act. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to do with donor eligibility, but that has to do with how you do all your processing and procedures within the laboratory. Then there are some states within the United States that have even additional legislation that requires slightly different screening and testing and consenting. For example, New York, now Colorado. So there's additional legislations that are going to be on top of federal legislation. And then if you are distributing in international markets, their legislation, though it can be 80% similar, will have other things that you have to keep in mind if you want to be those donors to be eligible to ship into international countries. Right. So as far as the FDA goes, the FDA's missive is pretty simple. It's to mitigate the risk of communicable diseases to the United States population, right? But within that, it is there's a lot more that goes into it than I think maybe the normal layperson might think, as far as the risk criteria, the testing and screening that's involved. And honestly, what I like to tell people is out of every 1,000 donor applicants that we get, only 9 get fully qualified into the program. Exactly. So it's a 0.9% acceptance rate.
Right. Excellent. And one of the things that people should know is that you're required to test the donor in the beginning within 7 days of collection.
Yep.
But you're also required to hold on to the specimen and retest the donor again 6 months later before the sperm can be released.
Absolutely. And that's to make sure that there's been no change in infectious health history.
And yes, go ahead.
Yeah, because there's some antibodies that are known to lay latent, even though there are tests now for nucleic acid tests that might be able to circumvent the need for antibody 6-month testing. The FDA is more conservative with their testing requirements than many of the other regulatory bodies around the world. They still require that the donors have that full 6-month quarantine.
Right. And that's, my friend, why we cannot accept your sperm. If you ship it from outside the country, I won't be taking them in my clinic.
That's
right. So I wanted to get that. And we touched a little bit about how international regulations shape donor access. I won't take it. They have to be in an FDA lab. So a lab in, say, Singapore or in, Djibouti won't cut it for the FDA, right?
Yeah.
So we can't take it. We can't take it.
Yeah, if they don't have access to the FDA licensed testing kits,
right,
then they can't be screened according to FDA legislation.
Right. And so talk a little bit about why known donors are on the rise.
Yeah, I think there's several reasons. I think number one, there's sometimes a familial connection with the donors that families want to use.
Yes.
Let's say it's a non-traditional family of a lesbian couple where the non-carrying individual has a brother that would like to donate the DNA material to the carrying individual and have a familial connection. I also think that there's a rise in the wanting for more transparency within the market and
Exactly.
knowing who your donor is.
Exactly.
I think there's also, people think that it's cheaper in the long run or less expensive to use a known donor. I can tell you that can be true sometimes and also can't be true in other times. We're happy at Seattle Sperm Bank at all of our locations to process directed known donors, client depositors, sexually intimate partners, because we realize that this is not just something that people think is maybe best for their family creation, but it's just something that they've always desired for their family. And so, we do quite a bit of that processing of those types of donors as well.
Yeah. So, and I think part of it comes to people want to know, does this donor have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder in their family, or
Yeah.
or they may say, you know what, I've known this person all my life. We're not, intimately related, but we have this arrangement. We want them to be the father of our child, and I'd rather my child know where their father is. Even if they don't have that relationship, they can go knock on the door and say, yeah, that's where my DNA comes from.
Yeah.
And also, some children born of donors sometimes just want to know, they want to close that loop.
Sure.
And know, okay, yeah, my biological father came from Crete, right? And I'm fascinated with that place of the world, and I want to know, and that maybe they're right. So people, and also anyway, in today's world with all the genetic testing out there and artificial intelligence, you cannot really guarantee that any donor is truly anonymous anymore.
Yeah, no, it's true. One of the things that we do counsel our donors on is that, we let them know that through consumer-based genetic testing, reverse image lookup on Google, AI, social media, it doesn't take all that expert of a detective to find who you are.
Exactly.
But we do try our best to protect the anonymity of the donors up until age 18.
Exactly.
Seattle Sperm Bank was founded on the premise of open identity donors.
That's
We
very
were,
good to know.
and then and then over time even updated that further to identity disclosure donors. But up until the age of 18, we want to be able to give that donor, as best as we're able, as much anonymity as possible.
Right.
But then when the time comes, we will help liaise the exchange of information, and then also help, if the donor offspring would like, help liaise in initial contact.
Exactly. Now, so that's, I hope people get an understanding of what's in a sperm bank right now. And also, I do have some men. I just did a podcast on momsokitis who have azoospermia. They've always wanted a child all their life, and they come to me and we test the sperm and blank, nothing. I just had a gentleman today where that's the case, and it can be devastating. And they want a child, right? And sometimes those couples will turn to a sperm bank. I can't tell you how many patients I've had, and even in the most conservative of cultures, an African culture is extremely conservative, and you give them this devastating diagnosis that, I'm so sorry, Mr. So and so, we can't find any sperm in your ejaculate, and they go through a urological workup, the testicular biopsy, and there's nothing, zip zilch, nothing. So those people can still have the joy of being a parent, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is devastating. It's one of the hardest conversations that our donor coordinators and medical director have to have with a potential donor when we see somebody come through who's, let's say 21 years old, and at 21 you find out you're azospermatic. It's devastating.
Exactly. And I can't tell you, I've actually had patients like that who are in their 20s.
Yeah.
So on to the next topic that is near and dear to me is the fact that we're starting to see a decline. Gentlemen, your sperm gets old. It gets old. It's not just the eggs. It gets old, and there's fewer of them, and they don't work as well.
Yes.
Right? And you and I were just talking about this article that came out that showed that up until 2017, there was a 1% decline in sperm quality, and that has accelerated. Infertility has accelerated, and now we're at a 2% decline per year. Right?
Yes.
Such that men nowadays are 50% less fertile than their grandparents.
That's correct. Right? And, to me, the data is very interesting. It is somewhat alarming. But I think what's, the next work that needs to be done is the continuation of determining why this is happening.
Exactly.
I have two things to say about it. The first one is, we could speculate that it's stress, it's social pressures, it's microplastics, it's environment, it's diet, it's exercise, etc. But I also think that there's this interesting thing that not a lot of us talk about. Maybe those of us in the industry talk about, but the infertility diagnosis is one that has an aspect to it that is almost not medical. it's social pressures.
Yes.
And when you think about the average birthing age of 2025 versus 1925 versus 1825, at that point, the infertility, the ages are so vastly different of the average birthing age that we have to ask the question. Sure, some people have a medical diagnosis for infertility, but some people maybe haven't allowed, for their bodies to become reproductive at the age that it was meant to be. Now, I'm not saying socially one way is acceptable or not. I'm not at all. But what I am saying is, if we change the average birthing age by 11 years from the 1800s to the 2020s, evolution hasn't had enough time to catch up to what we've socially decided. Yeah.
Absolutely. You touched on a very good point. Folks, let me elaborate on that. We as a species adapt to changes, correct? And we evolve. So when things happen in our environment, our DNA evolves. But things may be changing so fast that we haven't adapted enough. And as a result, we're suffering the consequence of an escalation of infertility.
Absolutely.
So to that end, here's what I've been telling my gentlemen, and I think where companies like yourself would come into play is, why don't we start encouraging young men to, I'm not saying donate your sperm, that's your sperm, you don't have to donate anything, but why don't you just freeze your sperm, whatever age you are, it's never too late. Just freeze it. And because you may decide you don't want to have children right now, but you want to have children in 10, 20 years, and you want to save the best sperm possible. Are you seeing social freezing of sperm, right? Are you seeing more of that with Seattle Sperm Bank?
Really, no, nothing statistically significant. Not like the increase that you've seen on the other side, other gamete side.
Yes.
Where women are freezing their eggs at a much more increased rate. Nothing statistically significant on the male side.
And do you think that is because there's lack of, not data, but lack of awareness? Like, what I'm trying to do is push this awareness out, that men think about this, you know what I mean? So, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think there is an incredible lack of awareness, because when you think about when most men think about freezing their sperm, it's when they're getting a vasectomy, or if they're unfortunately having to undergo oncology treatment.
Yes.
Or if, they're going on military deployment.
Yes.
Right? But if that's the three main avenues that the first time that they've even thought about freezing their sperm, that's not enough awareness. It's just not.
Yes. So we on our part, we will continue to talk about it at Fertile Talks. I have a book coming out called The First Quest for Fertility, where I also elaborate on different topics, and this is one of the topics that I do mention. So, Angelo, I think we really covered every topic in here.
Well, excellent.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you. I know we're on different time zones, and I want to encourage our listening audience, if you're interested in socially freezing your sperm, you might want to one day conceive, maybe reach out to Seattle Sperm Bank, right?
We'd be happy. Yeah,
They will. Yeah, and you will do the same testing that you do on anyone, and you'll make sure that it's done correctly. It's not a fly-by-night.
That's correct. Yeah, we can get it set up so that you can use those specimens in the future with a sexually intimate partner, or even if you would like to be able to offer those specimens to a friend or a family member.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I totally enjoy your time. And ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
How can they reach you if they have questions? Where can they reach out to?
Yeah, the best way to reach out to us is at info@seattlespermbank.com. And then if you're more specifically interested in the directed donor, known donor, sexually intimate partner, or just client depositor freezing route, you can send an email to DD as in directed donor, dd@seattlespermbank.com.
Seattle, ladies and gentlemen, Seattle, Seattle, Seattle in Washington. Yeah,
you got
that's
it.
how you find them. Okay.
You got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to Fertile Talks. We hope today's episode has provided you with valuable insights and support for your fertility journey. Remember, you are not alone. Now, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please simply leave us a comment. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with a friend. Your ratings, your shares, and your reviews are greatly appreciated and is going to help us serve more of our listening audience. Thank you once again. This is Dr. Famuyiwa.